Hey guys, welcome back to Digital Pen Pals. I'm your host, Zach Schertz, where we interview other artists and other creative minds and get to pick their brains, learn how they got into the industry that they're in, and just kind of chit-chat about art. And today I am sitting down with the RadicallyMaxton, also known as Matt. Hi, Matt. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing great. Thank you so much. This has been, thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. Me and Matt have been like chatting for like an hour before we even hit record. We've just been like vibing,
Yeah,
just chatting. I feel like just off the bat there
bonded over
was,
Cody Co.
yeah, we like dove into Kodiko. Ah ha ha. Uh,
Haha.
aha. Yeah. I feel like just as soon as like we entered the voice chat, we just both kind of like it's as if we've already known each other before. It's crazy.
Absolutely. Heck yeah. That's the signs of a good host where it's like, oh, sick. I don't have to be professional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude. I am
And
probably one of the least professional people you may know. Yeah, so I always like to mention how I meet people. Mostly it's through TikTok, and I believe this instance was through TikTok because sometimes it happens just like organically, and then I kind of forget later. I'm like, wait, I met you through TikTok, right? Because typically I do, but I do believe we met through TikTok,
yes,
right?
specifically a TikTok live. I hopped
Oh
on
yeah.
and it was like I saw that you were, just doing a live stream. I was like, hey, I'm gonna hop on. And that was when just like right then and there, I was like, hey, do you want to come on the podcast? And I'm like,
Oh, holy crap.
please, I want
That's what
to.
happened. That's what happened, dude. So I was on that live and then you jumped in and I couldn't remember if you were following me or not, but I remember following you and seeing a bunch of your stuff and being like, dude, this guy's awesome. And then when you popped in, I was like, dude, what the heck? I was like, he must be following me or something because what are the odds that he would jump into my live stream? There's no way. And so I like shot my shot. I was
I
like,
love
dude,
doing
I
that,
love your
especially with
art.
like my mutuals.
Yeah. I was just like, what the heck? So yeah, that was like
It's always
super
really cool
exciting.
when oh heck yeah, it was really cool. And then um I love doing that with like mutuals and stuff where I hop into their live and they'll be like, oh, wait a minute, it's you. And I'm like, hi. And I get really, really surprised by just like the amount of like people who follow me that I didn't know were like just really cool. So I feel like there are like some cosplayers and like artists and just like personalities on TikTok that follow me that I'm like, oh my gosh, this person's like so cool. And then I see like at the bottom left, it's like follows you. And I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
Shut up. They don't follow me.
You're like, if
Or
I
it'll be
follow
like
back,
an
I can DM
animator.
them. This is crazy.
Right. And it's like, wow, like that's crazy. Especially if it's like an animator who's like doing like beautiful animations.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And then it says like follow back. I'm like, shut up. No, you're not. What?
You're like, this is not real life. Dude, I feel like more and
I
more
know.
TikTok is like the equalizer to anybody. Like it doesn't matter who or what you are. Like even like people like I recently I'm hopefully fingers crossed I can get him on the podcast. But I did find like the creator of like Kipo had just joined TikTok not too long ago. And I was like, okay, what the heck? No way.
Nice.
And so I'm trying to network my way up to like, get him to notice some of my comments, and I shot my shot on one of his posts, and I was like, hey, I have a podcast. I'd love for you to come on. I'd love to pick your brain because, like, I love the show. I didn't think I would because, like, I looked at it and I was like, I don't know, maybe. And then I started watching it and I was like, actually, this is great. What the heck? And yeah, I just think it's like a super equalizer where, like, you can, like, there's no limits on, like, who you can reach out to. It's crazy.
Literally. One mutual that I flex on people sometimes is Gabriel Piccolo followed me on Instagram like a few weeks ago, and that blew my mind because I thought it was actually an artist that I had blocked on Twitter because I just read the Ecolo part, and then I
Hmm.
was like, ew, why did you like one of my posts on Instagram? I don't like you. And then I saw that it was Gabriel Piccolo, and I was like, no, shut up, no. No, absolutely not. And then he also like followed me back, and I was like, I'm gonna cry. I'm going.
That
This is it.
that's crazy. I'm not sure that I know. I probably recognize his work, but who is he?
He is like he does like he kind of did that trend of like the modern Teen Titans thing with like Batman with Raven, Starfire, and all of them. But he also did two comics of Raven and Beast Boy, and he's done like a lot of really awesome freelance work.
Interesting.
And he's like, and yeah, his work, like once you see it, you might recognize it. He's definitely known for doing like a lot of really beautiful like ink work and like beautiful like fan art, and he has like a very like nice and simple style, but it's very recognizable. And he's definitely like been a huge inspiration for me ever since I like discovered like just digital art and like you know that sort of style. And so when he followed me back, it blew my mind, and I told all my friends, and I was like, guys, oh my god, Gabriel Piccola followed me back.
That's awesome. Yeah. I I don't know that I've had like that big of an experience yet with like people following me, but yeah, it is interesting because like the more that things have been happening for like me on TikTok, has been uh like just seeing like people start to duet some of my videos. I'm like, this is kind of interesting,
Oh yeah.
and just like to see the type of people that are like watching my stuff. I'm like, it's just weird. It almost like is almost like a disconnection where I'm like, I almost don't believe that they watch my stuff or follow me consistently. I'm just like, there's no way. Like this is just like some
Yeah,
weird dream. I don't know. It's bizarre.
it's really cool also because I remember I made one TikTok that it was using my voice, and it was during that trend of it was like a Netflix original whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll be something that's like spooky where it'll be like a girl is like cleaning blood off her dress at prom or something. Mine was, I did like the artist route, was like a Netflix original anime instead. And it was really interesting to see like just a handful of people like use a TikTok audio that had like my voice. Of course, like three of them were like 8-year-olds just like
Yeah.
messing around on like
There's
the big
always eight year
sister's
olds
phone.
out
And I was
there.
like, yeah. And I was like, all right, you're definitely not my audience at all. I don't think you know what I'm even saying. But there's one kid who like actually like, cosplayed what I was wearing in like my drawn version of myself. And that was really, really cool. And I was like, whoa,
Dang.
that's wow. And it was really interesting just to like see that. But I just realized I didn't explain what I do as an
Oh
artist other than
yeah,
like
yeah.
TikTok. But I am currently a an online illustrator. I do commissions, Patreon, and of course, as we've discussed, TikTok. I mainly specialize in doing a lot of Final Fantasy 14 commissions. Specifically, that's kind of what that was like. That's been like my niche in terms of like commissions and stuff. I've done some work for the Disney acapella group, D Capella, for some of their promotional stuff,
I did not know that.
along
Holy
with
cow.
yeah, which that was like super cool. One of my friends, he is the bass singer, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to do some promotional work for us and for my cooking show?" And I was like, yeah." So that was really really awesome. And I've also and like one little fun factoid is last summer I did a fun collab video where it was like the choose your own artist, and Halsey retweeted me, which will never happen again, but that was pretty cool.
Dang.
Um, and other than that, I'm currently writing a comic, writing a little comic, which I haven't been too open about it on social media just so I don't get like performance anxiety and cold feet. But what I will say is it is about a very unlikely guy who is bestowed with the power of teleportation, and he gets swept up in the like some very interesting conflicts, and it escalates to him realizing that he
Ooh,
too can become a hero. So that's really nice.
that's cool.
But yeah,
Is it kind of like I don't know, I don't want to ask too many questions about it, but does it have like a similar vibe as like, because I always like that one, like the one hit wonder movies that like they have a movie, they're not like
yes.
super popular, but they're like they do pretty decent, but they never like come back to it. Is it similar to like
Yeah.
Jumper? Have you ever seen that movie?
I have seen Jumper, but it's a mix of I've been really hooked on um Tatsuki Fujimoto, who is the author of Chainsaw Man.
Okay.
And so I really liked how he was able to like take a character who's like his motivations are very like minimal, and as compared to like other like shonen manga characters where you have people like, I'm gonna become the Hokage someday, or the number one hero. For the main character in this one, he just wants to live a very peaceful life and be normal, because he had essentially been like homeless and he never got an education. So he's like, that's what I want. I want to go to school and I want to live normally.
Have a
And
house.
I thought that was really interesting. And also the writing gets very, very intense and odd. And so I took a lot of inspiration from that. And of course, like one of my favorite manga and anime ever is like My Hero Academia. So I'm
Oh
taking
yeah.
some inspiration from that. So it's a mix of both. And for those like who are familiar, you'll probably get an idea of being like, oh, okay. So I'm really excited to explore. I've been like writing a lot and kind of just like, I just get like giddy to myself, being like, hoo, it's all coming together.
That's interesting. And so like, because I know you've been working on, because you're currently going to school, correct?
Yes.
I think it's just like I know I've mentioned it, but like it's just crazy that you're still going to school, but yet like your art skills are just so like up there, like subpar. Like I don't know. I was always amazed at like anyone I went to school with that was like pretty good at like digital art. I'm like, dude, how are you even there? Like we haven't even finished school yet. How are you even like doing this stuff? This is crazy. And so like I don't know. Maybe it's just like my personal perception of myself. But I was always like, dang, like what am I doing? Like theirs is just so great. It's freaking crazy.
Well, thank you. In terms of how, I guess, like, how I got to where I am, I guess what I would say is like I drew every single day, like nonstop. There are in my mom's garage, there are like just piles and upon piles, like composition notebooks, uh, stapled pieces of like copy paper to where I'd make like little comic books. One time, and I was like 12 in the summer, I made like my own like Legend of Zelda like comic. And so I basically all it was, I just took printer paper, stapled it together, and with like an office pen, I just like drew it all like that. And I had no idea how long it was going to be. So if it ended, it just ended, or I'd just staple more paper to it. And I just kind of came up with it as I went. I was like, I have a pretty loose understanding of how um Ocarina of Time went.
Hmm.
But instead I didn't. I added like this weird uh effect where, oh, Link actually has like Naruto powers where he has like this crazy demon inside of him and he goes beast mode for some reason.
Every
And
12
it
year old
gets like
just like basically base a comic off of something they love.
absolutely. Like I even copied like the eyes and
Hmm.
stuff to where he has like Naruto get like thick eyeliner and stuff and like the cat eyes and stuff. I completely copied that, but also it just came out of like left field, out of nowhere. Where at the end of it, it's where Link like collects all of like the elements across Hyrule. He puts them on a pedestal. He's like, I will change, and then it goes to a flashback to where he like went beast mode, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really loved that trope of like the monster inside. So
Hmm.
edgy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the super relatable thing where you're just like, oh, I'm an angsty teenager and I have like this monster inside me. And that's why I'm evil.
I'm not like most kids. I have a nine-tailed fox demon inside my tummy.
I'm quirky. Oh.
I'm so quirky. I have a demon inside my tummy.
Yeah. Comes out my belly button. Oh.
and and it comes out whenever I get angry. So don't make me angry, Tucker.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Like I remember doing stuff like that too. Uh just like driven by pure imagination, and I remember still being like frustrated not being able to like fully like do it. Like it's kind of weird. Like I wanted to like have this vision in my mind, but I didn't know how to like make it happen because I'd go to draw and I'm like, I don't know how to draw any of that. I can kind of see this sort of like Gaussian blurred style like blurred image of what I want, but I don't know the details, so I'm like, I don't know how to draw any of that. I see general shapes and that's about it.
Honestly, like whenever I start an illustration, I'm like, all right, I think this is how it's gonna look. And then when it doesn't, I'm like, well, I tried. I tried my best. I didn't
Yeah.
succeed.
Yeah, I think that's where like I just kind of like I don't know, I'm starting to learn to kind of give up on like trying to be so preconceived. Like sometimes there's like moments of inspiration that hit where like you can, hit it right on the head. Like you draw exactly because you get better at being able to like what you see you can draw or what you draw you can see kind of thing. So you can kind of like since you know your own skill and abilities and like how to use different effects and stuff, like you're like, okay, I can envision this happening, so you can make it happen. So you kind of get better at that. But like lately, I've been like just more like, all right, I'm just gonna sketch for a bit, and then if I come across something that interests me, I'll keep drawing it, and then maybe bring it to like a full illustration. But like that's about it.
Me too. That I get inspiration at such weird times, and it's always when I'm never at home. I will be like in the car or going for a walk. It's always when I'm going for a walk and I'm just like listening to like my music, and I'll think of like, oh my gosh, this like illustration. When I get home, I think I'll start it. And I get home, I'm like, I think I'm gonna have some homemade chicken noodle soup for lunch, and I just completely forget it. And then it sucks because then later on when I'm having like art block, I'm like, dang, I wish I had some drawing ideas. I'll go for a walk, gets a drawing idea, comes back. Ah, man, I wish I had some drawing ideas. And it's just like this endless cycle. And I used to try writing them down, but then I'd look at them. I'm like, I don't know how to do that.
Right.
What? How would I do that? It looked different in my head. And it'll just be like this endless cycle where I'm like, well, I guess I'll just, I don't know, do nothing instead. I quit being an artist. My brain has betrayed me. My disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined.
That's a good quote. Uh, yeah, like I don't know, it's just tricky, and like I know for you, you're also doing Patreon and stuff like that, to like eventually get to the point where you can be completely like I don't even know, like I think you mentioned that you're pretty like self-sustained already, like at least a little bit financially from
Yeah.
doing illustrations, right?
Yeah. I made like separate like Final Fantasy 14 like prices for commission. So I have both normal ones and then Final Fantasy 14 ones. And the 14 ones are the ones for people who like are, it's like how furries are will pay like anything for
Oh
Final
yeah.
Fantasy 14 commissions. Also, or like furries will pay like anything just to get their characters drawn.
Mm-hmm.
Final Fantasy 14, I used to get those a lot when I would just do regular commissions, and I found that like I'm not really getting all the bang for my buck out of here, because I'd spend like hours rendering an axe or a armor and stuff. And then I thought, why don't I just make like separate prices? And since doing that, that was kind of when I realized like I'm doing pretty all right. So but also, just tip for anyone out there, if you want to make a quick buck, if you have any sort of artistic experience, just do furry commissions. I promise you, furries are like secret millionaires. I don't know how and I don't know why, but I've considered it immensely to be like, well, I have like my persona character that I draw from time to time. And I guess if that's a testament to anything, to my like experience with doing that, I could just use that as like the poster child and be like, hey guys, look, I know how to do this, so come and get it.
Yeah. Like I've seriously considered doing it. I almost did. I think I joined like a Facebook group or something for a bit, but yeah, I just was like not sure. I was like, I don't know if this is the fit for me and like the thing that I want to do. But like, if you do view it as like, okay, well, this will for one be an experience into like learning how to do commission work and just practice in general. Cause like honestly, if they see your work and
Definitely.
like it and are willing to hire you, then you can just like stick with that and be like, okay, well, I don't have to be crazy, crazy good. I can just be as good as I can be right now, and then hopefully the next piece will go a little bit better. Maybe, who knows? Um, and so it does get a little bit easier, I think, and just I think that's like a good like
Definitely.
way into like doing what you do with like commission work.
For sure. Since like doing Final Fantasy 14 commissions, with each one, it's like a new like learning curve because I've like always been a huge fan of just like medieval stuff. I'm a huge fan of Dark Souls and Legend of Zelda and like that sort of genre of just like medieval dark fantasy type of thing. And so like a lot of my friends that I know, they love Final Fantasy 14, and they would ask me like, oh man, like just do Final Fantasy 14 commissions. And as the more I do them, the more I both learn like about just doing armor and weapons and like just different like types of characters, not just like in like build or like type of like I guess specialty, but also in like, oh, this character has horns that also look like a a Christmas tree or something. But also it'll like give you experience of like drawing elves or like more like beefy muscular characters that have like giant battle axes or bow and arrows that have like intricate floral details and stuff. It's definitely like each one brings a new challenge, but I think that is also kind of the fun in it because I love doing them. They've always been like my favorite type of commissions to do. So whenever I
Hmm.
open up commissions, I'm always like, I hope I get like a Final Fantasy 14 one because these ones are like really fun to do. Um, it's always like really exciting, especially when uh you do it right. Because if there's one thing that I do kind of like pride myself with my Final Fantasy 14 commissions is I love making sure I get the details right, especially if it's for like an art like armor set or a weapon. Because there's always that satisfaction of when like they say, "Oh my gosh, you even got the details right." That really makes it kind of like the best part of doing them. Because for a lot of people, like Final Fantasy 14 is like a bonding experience with their partner or fun experience with their best friend and just stuff like that. And so it's always like really nice when you get to do it well, but while also like learning while you do it.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's good because like on your own it's kind of tricky because like like me like I've been like jumping back and forth of like, oh, should I do this, should I do that, like with like practicing art and drawing and stuff like that. But like I've come to the point too where I'm just like, yeah, like like you said, commission work is like really nice because you can just kind of you get kind of this random, like, not quite random because you do have like your themes basically, but you get sort of this
Yeah.
randomized prompt to like, okay, draw this. Whoa, okay, I will draw that because sometimes there's stuff that you would not normally think to draw, and that's the exact stuff you should be drawing. Um, and like for me, I've just been like like lately, since I kind of went through like hiatus. I kind of talked about in the last podcast episode how I went through this hiatus, but I slowly kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, if I'm just comfortable drawing one thing, then I'll just draw it for a while. As long as I'm drawing, we're good. And hopefully I'll eventually move on to like other things. Like
Yeah.
for now, I've just been focusing on like drawing different types of heads with different eyes and different mouths and different shapes of everything, and just kind of letting myself get exercise drawing. But yeah, like I could see how that would really like it's kind of funny because it's like you're getting paid for your work, but also like you're getting paid to get better. So it's kind of funny that way where it's like this perfect trade off where you're like, not only am I getting paid,
Yeah.
but I'm getting
I get
better.
like exactly. It's a really nice win-win situation. I also they get some nice art, I get paid, and I get to buy groceries. But also I also like learn something new while I do it. And another thing, and it's really one of my friends pointed this out to me. If like someone is like hyper fixated on like just anything pop culture, whether it be like a show, a character, or a game, somehow, some way, being so hyper fixated on that will like help you improve. So I had like this period who, if like people are familiar with my art, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I was like obsessed with this like 2011 indie RPG game called Off, which is like it was made at RPG Maker and all the way back in like 2008. It was made in France, all that stuff, and has like these weirdo characters. There's like a merchant named like Zachary who breaks the fourth wall, wears like a frog and cat mask. And then there's like the main protagonist is like this guy named the Batter, and his only goal is to like like purify the world of evil spirits. And it's like this charming, wacky game, but for whatever reason, I was so obsessed with it that I couldn't stop drawing the characters. And in my sketchbook, it'll be like, oh, there's off, there's off, there's off. And even like on Twitter, I had to put out like a statement being just like, all right, guys, I am now in a hyperfixation period that I do not care if you don't like it because I love it. So thank you so much. And during that time, I found like this new like way that I like to paint in digitally
Hmm.
by using this one just like pencil brush that I use for a lot of like my work, where it has like this really interesting like texture where it's technically a pencil brush, but it's like perfect for the type of like matte look that I go for in like my digital work.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh whoa. And it was because of my hyperfixation of Off and this one illustration I did of the main characters of the character Zachary wearing like a cool leather jacket. That piece right there was what kind of maybe like start the process of like improvement, because then it made me be like, whoa, I just discovered this new way of painting. Let me try it on this character. Oh no, oh wow, I like, and then it just like was this domino effect, all because I started to obsess over this obscure game that was super popular like almost 10 years ago.
That's awesome.
And like I even saw it with like some of my friends who would hyper fixate over like just a specific character. One of my friends, she loves the character Hawks, and she just drew him like nonstop. And she's now like in just like 5 months, she just went just in like crazy better. Like now she knows how to like color skin. She isn't afraid to like kind of do gestural drawings, and she now understands like muscles better. And it's just like it's crazy how anything at all can like improve someone's like just skill level like exponentially, whether it be if someone starts to just like draw once a day, whether it be like anatomy or drawing different faces, like the improvement you see, although like you yourself won't see it, it'll definitely be apparent in like 2 3 months or something, where it's like, oh whoa, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. I almost wish like you could show yourself your artwork like in the past, like your future self could be like, hey, or I guess you to be the one to experience it. So you'd be the one in the past. You wish your future self could show you the artwork you make in a couple months to like, because it's kind of like
Definitely.
you notice it, but it's still not as like, holy crap, as like it would be like if you were to see it. Like, where would I be? Well, where will I be in like 5 years in my artwork? I don't know. It's just kind of it's wild.
Exactly. I
Yeah,
feel like if I were to go back to middle school me, who would always envision me making like these epic, like, anime posters and stuff or
dude, you're
whatever
doing that
with
already,
like,
bro.
and I would be like, hey, guess what? Like, just keep doing what you're doing, and you're gonna get there, all right?
Yeah,
Like keep drawing Link. Trust me, you'll wait till you see him in 2021. He's looking a bit different now, but he's cool.
yeah, that's awesome. Uh, and so like I don't know, I feel like I kind of want to like understand like the process of your journey because I feel like that's something that I feel like young me would really want, even me now would want to know, just like how you ended up getting here to this point. Because like I feel like most artists kind of have that similar foundation of like I just like drawing and I've been drawing for since I can remember, since I was like a little kid. And then eventually you kind of choose to pursue it a little bit more. And I know you're going to school and stuff. So a lot of people sometimes are in that like fork in the road where either they've just decided to go to school or they're deciding whether or not to go to school because like there's lots of good resources and whether they're paid or free online. There's lots of good resources for learning art, but sometimes without someone to instruct you or to guide you that's experienced, it's kind of hard to get that one-on-one like critiques in your art. How did you like go from just pursuing art as a hobby to like going to school for it?
It was it was definitely like a very up and down kind of realization that, oh wow, you can actually like do art for a living. That's crazy. Because I always thought that the only artists ever for some reason were just animators.
Yeah.
um and I never like envisioned myself like being able to be an artist. Not because like I didn't think I could do it, but because I didn't know it was like possible. Until like in my freshman year of high school was when, of course there's like that talk of like, oh, start looking at colleges, whatever. Initially the first college that I looked at was the Academy of Art University in San Diego, which thank goodness I didn't go, because I didn't realize how expensive San Diego
Oh
was
yeah.
until my mom had to tell me. And she was like, honey, I think it's amazing that you you are aiming so high for your dreams, because I think you can do it, but maybe aim somewhere else.
Yeah.
And
Aim somewhere with a
when I
coupon.
looked, I was, yeah, and I was like, "Oh, yikes!" And then all like the campus was like spread out across San Diego, and
Oh
knowing San
dang.
Diego being like the intense terrain it is, I was like, "Oh, I wouldn't survive. I would fall down every hill." Um,
Yeah.
and then that's where I started to like kind of like learn about the different types of like fields of work you can do. So there's like that's one area is oh there are like you can actually get paid to do comics and stuff. Which if you went up to 16 on me like hey you can get paid to do comics, I'd be like what? And it's like yeah you didn't know that? Who? It's like do you think they just print these out? Um
Some AI
and
just makes them.
yeah
You hit
like
make comic,
the people who
punch button.
the digital art conspirators who are like it's not real, they probably think they were the ones who thought that, where it's like oh it's push a button and the next 5 issues of Batman are made instantly.
Right.
But as like especially like throughout high school, as I started to come into like my own like art style and like influences stuff, I would like I did not shy away from like copying other artists at all. I copied like anime styles from TV shows that I liked, from manga I liked, artists that I would just find on the internet. I think one time in my freshman year of high school, throughout the span of like 2 months, my art style changed like 15 times.
Oh, that's
Like no
awesome.
joke.
That's hard to do,
Um
honestly. Like if anyone's experienced that, that's freaking hard to change. Like, 'cause you feel stuck in an art style. That's crazy that it changed 15 times or approximately or whatever.
And I can like think of just like a few of them. So I was like, oh my gosh, the Walking Dead comic book art style is cool. Let me copy that. Oh wait, this anime called Another. I like this art style. Let me copy that. Oh, this other one called Dead Man Wonderland. Let me copy that. Oh my gosh, Attack on Titan manga. Let me copy that. And it just was like this domino effect that went just kept going. And eventually I stuck on like the manga art of this one anime called Dead Man Wonderland because I thought it was like really cool, and I was in that period of like, well, I don't want this like uh sparkly frou-frou anime. I want ones that are like dark and like edgy, haha,
Yeah.
Uh, um, and so I like copied that style for a bit, where I would use like pen, like writing pen and pencil to like the pencil was to like kind of recreate like the two tone in like comic
Mhm.
books, and it did look horrible. It was so bad. Um, and so uh, throughout like that period of I think that was like in my freshman year of high school. That was when my style was so inconsistent. You would have thought I was like 10 different people. Um, but then like I transferred to a different school in my sophomore year, and that was when I really started to get a better understanding of like art careers, because I actually had teachers who told me about it. Like, oh, like what kind of art career are you interested in? Because like at the previous school I did, my art professor or my art teacher, he was teaching a freshman who like was, just drew anime all the time, but I'm still in contact with him. He's great. Shout out to Mr. M. Any Hoosers. But when I finally got to high school, in the stage where you kind of have to start thinking about like these questions, like, oh, like what do you want to do? Like where do you want to go? Um, that's kind of when I started to like lean into what did I want to do? That was like the question all the time. Like, what do I want to do? Do I want to do animation? Do I want to do comics? I didn't even know, like as of right now, I'm studying to get my bachelor's in children's book illustration. I didn't even know that was something you can study for. I always thought it was just concept art and animation, and that's it. I thought that was like
Mhm.
the minimum. And like also game art, because like 3D modeling and stuff. But even then, I was like, oh, that's probably like something you just like learn on like Skillshare or something, like whatever.
Mhm.
I had no idea that just how like broad like the education spectrum was. And then like towards the end of my sophomore year, um, was when I finally started to understand what I kind of wanted to do. I was like, oh, I want to be a concept artist. That's what I want to do, because I watched this like mini documentary about the making of The Last of Us.
Mhm.
And when I saw that, oh, wow, you can do that, and like do it for something that I like, which was I really like The Last of Us and stuff. And during that time, I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. I want to do concept art. I'm going to be a concept artist, but I'm still only going to draw character art. And, I wasn't wrong. Like, character art is still considered like concept art. It's just sectioned off to be like concept art characters. Um, but then when I entered my senior year was when many more like opportunities were opened up to me. And I had like an amazing art teacher, Miss Jelinas, who was like an angel. She was amazing. She invited me and like 3 other students to go on something called National Portfolio Day, which in my high school, I went to high school in like El Paso. So we went to National Portfolio Day in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And that was where like a bunch of colleges, art schools, like from around the country would go and kind of like should tell you like what programs they have, what kind of program are you best made for. And during this time, I was finding my style. Of course, like, to any like younger person listening to this who's like, I need a style. Trust me, your style will come.
Yeah.
It's a natural process.
It's something you
It's
can't focus on. It's something that just has to happen on its own.
exactly like, but they were there to sort of like see where you're at skillfully, what they can like kind of teach you and stuff like that. So I met with the college SVA, and SCAD, and also like Cal Arts and stuff, and like a lot of schools. And the one that like I'm going to now is RimCAD, and they said they had degrees for illustration, and that's kind of where the light bulb started to go off in my head. I was like, oh wait a minute, what? I never considered illustration to be like a degree you can just go for.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they had to be much more kind of like marketable, like animation and stuff like that. But when they like explained it to me, that was kind of when I started to understand, oh, I'm I'm understanding now. I want to be an illustrator, I think, but I don't know what illustration I want to do, because I was still in that limbo of, do I want to do concept art? Do I want to do comics? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do character art? Because I loved doing like characters and stuff. I had like 15 different OCs and stuff. Like every high schooler did, like
Mm-hmm.
me. And finally in my senior year was when like I finally understood what I wanted to do, was when RimCAD actually reached out to me saying, "Hey, we're very excited to see you again this year at National Portfolio Day. Um, and we just want to sort of like, keep in touch, blah blah blah." And that was when I like actually looked at their like website and saw just how much they had to offer. They had like children's book illustration, sequential, concept art, game art, animation, 2D animation, 3D animation, and it was like that was when it kind of went like the light bulb went off, and I was like, I want to do children's book illustration. That's it, because just like what they showed was like exactly what I wanted to do, and it just like really like kind of like light bulb went off, fireworks, you know, like the beacons are lit, Gondor has called for aid. And from there I started to focus on like illustrate like just illustrations. So like being able to tell a story through like one image and stuff, and like composition, colors, and like stuff like that. And since then, to where I am at now, since attending, it's been a very like interesting thing, because I always thought that just because of like being gassed up by like teachers and parents and family and stuff, being like, oh yeah, by the time you're a sophomore, you're gonna be you know having all sorts of books. I do not have a book. I have a dummy book that I did for a project. That is my first quote unquote book. um
Right.
and it's like it obviously, like, I wasn't disappointed, because I'm like, I'm whatever. But I downloaded TikTok, and then I like kind of gained a following there, and then it kind of just
You
kept
kind of gained
going.
a
And
following.
then okay, okay,
You
well,
have like 200. You have like
um,
200K. I'm gonna be real with you.
uh,
That's an army.
oh, oh, I'm,
That's a small nation.
I ain't, yeah, I ain't gonna say it, but
I'll
and
brag for you.
thank you. um, but since attending and doing like commissions and finding becoming like more prominent online, and realizing that freelance was also something that I am pretty decent at as well, has been very interesting. I have like, for whatever reason, I have like a very one track mind. Like children's book, that's me. I'm gonna be making book covers, and Neil Gaiman, watch out, I'm coming for you.
Hmm.
But doing commissions, Patreon stuff, and it made me realize that, oh wow, you can actually, freelance doesn't just mean DC reaching out to you being like, hey, you want to do a variant cover for us. It can also be doing stuff for like smaller, like not smaller things, but like just other things, like doing something for like a Disney, part of the Disney conglomerate and things like that. So
And more like personal
um
commissions from like friends or whatever, or other people that
exactly.
just kind of know you a little bit, you know.
Exactly. And uh I think that was definitely, I wasn't expecting that at all, to like my I guess like my job as of right now. I wouldn't call it a career because I'm only 21. You know, like what career? My career is I got retweeted by Halsey in a collab video. um but I definitely wasn't expecting it. It's a very pleasant surprise, but definitely expect the unexpected because you never know. One illustrator that visited my school, she was studying animation, but she now does children's books, and it was because she made a web comic about just like mental health, and
Mhm.
it got the attention of like some like children's book people, and they were like, "Oh, we," and it was about, oh my gosh, it was about like what would happen if like polar bears went extinct or something. And it was like it was an info comic, that's what it was. Where it just like shows you, and she posted it on Tumblr and it like blew up overnight. And then she also had like a web comic about mental health and stuff. And it just got the attention of, some people who do children's book illustration. And they're like, hey, we'd love to make this info comic into a full book for kids to kind of teach them about, the endangered species and stuff. And she now has like 3 books about different endangered species. I think she has one about rhinos and polar bears so far. I think. I don't remember. I don't remember her name. But it was really interesting to experience something that was like shown to me. I always expected me to, kind of start working in like my field of children's books. But now that I'm starting to write my own web comic and I'm doing commissions and I do Patreon and I'm kind of much more like a social media artist, that's definitely not something they put in the brochure of like, welcome to RimCAD. Here you will be able to pursue your career of illustration, game design, social media presence, what have you.
Mhm.
um so it was a very it's been a very interesting like journey of being like of ups and downs. Being like, I don't know what I want to do. Oh, I think I know what to do. I know what I'm going to do. I'm not quite doing that. Close, kind of. I'm doing art, but it's not for children.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Um yeah, I think that's interesting. So like what would you say to your past self if you were considering like cuz I know maybe like we all kind of go through like self-doubt like, "Oh, is this really going to help me?" But like what kind of thing suggestions would you or something would you say to yourself before choosing like now knowing what you know now, would you do it again?
Definitely uh go with like your gut and realize that every mistake isn't a fault, it's a learning curve. Um, because whenever I would like mess up like artistically or just like personally, I'd always think that was like a defect in like my progress. When in reality it was just lesson to learn. So that's definitely something I'd like tell my younger self. Like take everything in strides. Um, and every like the bumps along the way are not faults at all. They are just lessons have that have got you to where you are now.
That's good. Yeah, I think school is like important, and I think a lot of people can stress about it, but I feel like as long as you follow your gut like you say and you do kind of um find a place that like seems to fit you, like you don't have to know everything, but as long as you're getting some sort of like education, it's like really helpful. But I know some people that are just like
Exactly.
so super good at being self-taught, but um I feel like that only takes you so far sometimes. It's always nice to have someone else
Yeah.
who's does different maybe like a different type of art, but like they can critique you in your art and be like, oh, you could prove this in this.
Hmm.
Like those are critiques that are
Because you
always
can
so
always
helpful.
for sure, like you can always learn something new from someone who maybe doesn't do what you do. I have like some friends that do like 3D animation, 3D modeling. or even like graphic design, and sometimes they'll have like very insightful critique that you wouldn't even expect. Even my mom, she's like 56, and sometimes she'll like give me critique where I wouldn't even like catch that, and I'm like, dude, what, and it's always like, really cool to get insight from people who you wouldn't even expect. And also like I always like encourage like just pursuing some form of like artistic education if people are serious about it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, if like art school is never like the answer,
Right.
like it's not like kind of like the gold ticket to be like, oh, by the end of this, I'm gonna be a artist Pokemon master. It's not like that. Because you can learn now with like there's so many resources available. I was almost a teacher for class 101, which is like a Skillshare. I almost had my own class of creating your own characters and giving them meaning. Um, but you have things like that. You have Skillshare, YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and like just a endless plethora of art education that is just free. If not, there's like a subscription paywall. And if people definitely want to pursue an education, but maybe it's like, oh, I don't know if I can do art school, that's totally fine. Like art school does not like kind of give you a stamp of approval, like you're an official artist now.
Yeah.
That's a weird like kind of misconception that starts in high school for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
With any sort of like uh profession, whether it be like dancing, theater, whatever, um any sort of arts degree, because I have no idea for anything else. uh I can
Mm-hmm.
only speak on behalf of like my experience. um there's always that weird pressure of like, oh, to be like kind of solidify your expertise as like a so and so, you need to have this, like a degree or something. And one of my mutuals on TikTok, she dropped out of animation school and is working on the Owl House right now. So I'm
No
like,
way.
which is an animated show on Disney. So I'm like, yeah, like, you know, most of the time you maybe don't need a degree,
Right.
because some people can't afford it, which is 100% understandable. Because there are other venues to pursue like an art education. You don't need to spend your life to get a degree in something that maybe like you aren't as passionate for. So I guess like what I'm like to summarize what I'm saying is art school is optional. If you have the means to go, I encourage it. But if not, that's fine. You're still very valid as an artist if you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think um yeah, it's not like the title really like having a degree cuz like since I graduated recently last year. I guess about a year ago at this point. But yeah, I graduated and it was just kind of like I mean, it was kind of like a poopy situation where it's like, 2020 there wasn't like any sort of like walking graduation sense of like, oh, I
Yeah.
graduated. It was kind of like, okay, that was my last class. Cool. I'm going to go back to my full-time job and oh cool, my degree came in the mail. And so it's just kind of like a moment where you're just like, cool, I got a paper.
Yeah.
But it was like more of like it was my
It's
experience.
like
It just felt like
yay.
anything else.
Hmm.
But
For sure.
yeah,
I
it
had
it
like a few of had a few of my friends who like were like a grade younger than like grade below me who graduated high school like amidst COVID, and it was like definitely like it was very dismal. Because their parents weren't in the auditorium. They just walked across the stage, posed in front of the camera while their like families were at home watching the live stream,
it's the
which
worst.
they got to walk, but there was no like it was just in a quiet room, and I'm like, dang, that's like Black Mirror stuff right
Yeah.
there.
Mine was
It's like
like
really sad.
I was going up to school at I attended BYU Idaho. And so I was like in Idaho and when COVID happened like, just like okay, well, I'm going home for the last semester apparently. So that's cool. And so I finished off everything online and then they had was just like I thought it was going to be at least like, have like people walking that can or whatever, kind of like they've done in other situations, other schools. But it was
Right.
kind of weird because it was just like I don't think there anybody walked. It was just all virtual. And I was like, okay, well,
Yeah.
that's weird. All right. So I'm like, I
Hmm.
like honestly, it's funny. Me and my friends planned to go to. We went to Sedona because I live in Arizona. So we went to Sedona for a day trip, and we left the morning of my graduation ceremony. So that was funny. Uh, so I didn't even watch the live stream. I just was like, I don't even care anymore. I'm so done. I'm like, let's go to
Yeah.
Sedona. I'm ready to just go chill
It's like,
somewhere.
this is my graduation
Yeah,
ceremony.
I was like going, swimming in a river and stuff. I'm like, yep, this is my graduation ceremony.
Heck yeah. Like,
But
honestly, I'm pretty sure there are like a lot of people who agree, are like, this is much better than, just having like the dean of students be like, congratulations, everyone, you've done it. All right, how do you log off?
oh, how do I turn this camera off? Oh no, I put on a
It's like,
filter. Oh no, why does my face look like
I
that?
was there were the one of the government official guys who he turned into a cat, and it's like, Senator Steeplestein, you have a filter on. Oh, I don't I don't know how to turn this off. I can assure you, for those watching at home, I am not a cat. Me and my assistant are trying to turn this off. And they're just for like 5 minutes trying to have. Oh no, it wasn't a government official. Oh man, it was actually like like a court hearing.
No
So
way.
like one of like the attorneys just has this cat filter on, and I'm like, dang, I don't know what it was about, but wouldn't that be horrible if it's like, it was like a hit and run, and
Something
it's like
serious.
you killed, yeah, it's like, you killed my dad, and like, the judge has a cat filter. All right, Mr. Smith, you have anything to say about that? Mr. Smith, Mr. Smith, please take this seriously.
Right? Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, I think yeah, like the title of a degree doesn't really grant you much except for the skill that you have. Because I feel like most
Yeah,
places aren't even looking to see if you have a degree. Like it does kind of help because they know at least like like fundamental stuff. Like you're kind of like well grounded.
yeah,
But mostly if they're just looking at your work, and I think that's what gets you the gigs. That's what gets you hired is just showcasing that you can
hmm,
actually do stuff. I think that's like the most important thing.
exactly.
Um.
It's kind of like, um, it's like the way I'll sort of equate a degree to like actual like careers and stuff would be, it's like bringing your ID to like the club, but your ID is a bit more flashy than others, and it's like, hey, look, this is my ID, but it's a bit different than the other guy. You know, you might have someone who has like a very similar portfolio and skill level, but you just so happen to have the degree. So
Right.
it's like the playing field, yeah, it's different because one guy has the qualification, but the skill level is like, this might be the same.
Right. Because you can still have a degree and not be good at anything.
Yes, I unfortunately know my school. It's I think the acceptance rate is 95%, and there's some students where I'm like, all right, cool, and and what stinks is that for some of them, like, I think they were probably forced into going to college,
Hmm.
which makes it like very sad because I can tell that they probably want to be pursuing something else, but they were pressured to go to college because it might have been like just a um like maybe like a standard of like their family or whatever, and like they'll talk about like some other passion they have, and I'm just thinking like, dang, I'm so sorry, like, it's like you probably want to pursue music or dancing or something, and you're here, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I hope you get the dance studio of your dreams.
Yeah. Put that whatever degree in culinary arts or something to work in your dance studio or
Yeah,
something. Oh man.
exactly. And it's like, I started as a chef, and now I am the best tap dancer in the world.
Yeah. And I think for some people that's I mean, I've known of some people in school that like were doing something completely different and they realized, you know what, I'm gonna pursue this art thing and they like switch their majors and stuff. And so like I think that's what's interesting about colleges too is like people kind of feel like, oh no, when I go to college I have to have this all figured out or have like the exact career I want to follow. And it's like, well, no. I'm like, I went to school thinking I was going to do animation. Like, I wanted to do traditional 2D animation. I didn't know where or how, but I was like, I want to do that. And then I realized, like, the reality, kind of like when you're kind of were like, basically your reality was kind of struck by the reality of your mom saying, like, hey, it's really expensive and there are hills and you don't like walking, do you? This might not work out for you.
Hmm.
So it's like that moment where I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm like learning about more industries and like different careers that are available. I was like, well, shoot, like doing animation is kind of hard because you're jumping from job to job. There can be job security if you get like the right gig, right, for a number of years. But then production of the show or movie
Exactly.
or something goes out, and then okay, well, yeah, you have the skill and stuff. You could probably easily get another job, but still, there's that sense of like having to jump from job to job that kind of like stinks. And then the cost rates of living in California, at least for me, were like too high compared to where I live, and so I was like, ah, man, that's not gonna work. And so like I think that's okay to like figure it out as you go along, because I don't think I even defined my, because in my school it was you have your major, which is just your degree, um, and you have your emphasis. And so my degree I got in bachelor's in the arts. I wanted to do fine arts. I applied for it, didn't get in, and then I didn't give myself enough time to reapply because it was already like my senior year, and I was like, well, I didn't get in. That was the whole plan. Cool. I guess I will just go for the art degree, please. Thank you. It's like that one TikTok audio. It's like blueberry slushy. Do you wanna? I forget the audio, but anyway, funny little trend. But
And it's like, hi, can I get a blueberry slushie? A sausage McMuffin?
that's not, yeah. Like that's not what I want. Oh, okay, I'll take it. So yeah, like,
It's like, I'll take it.
and then like I realized I was like, I'll just emphasize an illustration because it's like, it doesn't have to be the very exact specific tool, but at least felt for me applied in my like what I wanted to do in the future. I was like, if I can just get my illustration skills, I can do everything else that I want to do. So I don't have to like too stress about anything because I'm pretty open to doing kind of whatever I want to feel like doing, as like a career. So like I
Mhm.
feel like not knowing what you're doing going into college is totally normal and totally fine. Um, and you don't have to
Definitely.
feel pressure to like choose a major or whatever really quick. Start with generals, take a few different classes. Like if you're not completely sure about something, like just try some different classes. You never know. Like I took classes that I didn't think I was going to be completely interested in that ended up influencing like my artwork. Like I took a graphic design class that led to me eventually, now where I work, I do graphic design as my daytime gig, and it does help me in my illustration stuff too. It's like now I understand text and how to place compositions a little bit better too, and just conscious decisions that maybe I wouldn't be as focused on if I had just done art and not tried like a different little subject or a little niche that was available at my
Yeah,
college. I don't know. I think it's really cool just to kind of let yourself explore.
exactly. I've like had a lot of friends who they went to community college first and got like their prerequisites done, but also like took like electives of things they're interested in. So if they were interested in art, if they're interested in like sound production or whatever, they took those electives, but they also got like their math, science stuff out of the way. And it really helped them figure out what they wanted to do. Some of them went into engineering, mechanics, whatever. Because there's like always like that pressure in like high school of like you need to know what you need to do, and it's like that's asking a lot of teenagers who are one teenagers, and you're shoving them into a very important like commitment right now, because like college isn't something to just be like, I think I want to go to Harvard, maybe. I don't know. Still thinking about it. It's like,
hmm
they treat it as something that's very like life or death,
Where it's
and they
like,
wonder
was it like
why
that for them? Like, was it that? Like, I don't know. It's funny because it's like it feels like generationally, like sometimes they put pressures you put pressures on a younger generation when it's like, well, was it like that for you? Well, no. Then why are you pressuring so much? Like, just let people kind of figure it out. It doesn't have to be this whole stressful push for everything. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't know if you got the same vibe from the
oh,
world, but it feels like it
literally.
sometimes.
Definitely. Where it's like, well, when I was applying for college, I'm like, well, then I'm not there. So what? It's like, why are you complaining? It was easier for you. I have to like actually, live with this until I die.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, like let me breathe for a second while I try to figure out my financial aid form.
Yeah. It's like so stressful to like try to like narrow down what you do, for the rest of I don't know, cuz it's kind of weird. And that's why like I'm kind of like been so like I almost feel like sort of an artist an artistic like nomad where it's like like yes, I love like because we kind of talked about this before the podcast. Like like I have a love of doing like video stuff. Like that's why I love doing like YouTubes and stuff like that. But also like my main love and which has been from the beginning is like doing art and just making stuff in general. And so like I feel like trying to say like oh I'm going to do X thing for the rest of my life is like that's cool, but also as I continue as a human being, you you collect information and education along the way through experience and through just like study and stuff. And I feel like for me I want to be open to like different things that might happen where it's like yes I'm doing this kind of illustrations, but maybe I jump into doing like I do digital a lot, but maybe I'll jump back into doing traditional. Who knows? Or maybe like I like doing videos, so maybe I'll jump into videos for a while. But it's not like I'm ever gonna like stop doing one or the other. It's just like I kind of like go through these phases of like, okay, time to move over here, time to live over here for a bit, and it's kind of a little bit nomadic, I guess. And I feel like a lot
For
of artists have like multiple interests, and I think like we need to be kind of more okay with ourselves like doing that because it gives us like good better mental breaks, and then everything we do when we come back to it after a break, it just we get so much better. That's what I've noticed with me.
I agree, definitely. I think there's
Normalize
always like
nomadic ship.
exactly normalize taking breaks and normalize experimenting because like if there's anything that has helped me out a lot, it's being okay with like experimentation. I think with this like the as like digital art becomes more normalized and younger artists think that's kind of like the standard, but of course whenever they see a digital artist they have like a set in stone style that's their own and it's whatever. There aren't enough like in like artists out there who showcase their experimentation and growth, which is why like some of my older posts I still have available because I'm like no I don't want to like kind of get rid of where I started
Mm-hmm.
because then it shows like developing artists that hey what you see now was not what how I was like back then, and experimentation should be like normalized and okay because art and art style it's like a muscle. You build it up, it's going to flex, expand, strain, change, it's going to do its thing. And going from I want to focus on traditional, maybe a little bit of digital, and going back and forth, that's fine, because that's just like that's just the cool part of being an artist. You get to choose whichever venue you want to do. That's the cool part of it. And that's why like I love like switching from digital to like my sketchbook sometimes is because it feels very like almost like a taking like a vacation a little bit from doing like three commission like basically like my basic work day I finish like 2 to 1 commission a day, um depending on what's going on. And um like then I'll like secure time to do traditional stuff where it'll be I'm just doodling in my sketchbook and just not thinking about what I'm drawing, and I'll like do some realism, I'll do some more abstract stuff, maybe I'll just do like thumbnail comics, and I'll just not abide by any sort of set rules and just have at it, because I think that's like the important part of kind of sustaining a healthy relationship with your art is if you allow yourself to have like a personal like time for it as well, other than not just like work at social media stuff. Because I think there's like a time and place. There should be like this piece of art I'm gonna post to Instagram, but this art is for me. I think that should be kind of normalized more, being able to experiment and set, art development for yourself as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Like I feel like um I mean, I feel like I just haven't been able to do like, just like art in general like as much since I've been focusing on doing like video work and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like in my latest work that I've been doing, it's kind of felt nice to just kind of like be like, okay, I can post a sketch. It's all right. Like it's not a big deal. Like just whatever. Like for me right now, it's like just doing head sketches. Like I have a few head sketches. I can post it. Whatever. And I think that just like it's just so much more liberating. And I think the moment you stop caring too is the more people start to notice you because it's a little bit more genuine. You're not like making something because you're like, oh, I'm gonna have this blow up on social media, versus like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do whatever. And if it is good, cool.
Exactly.
But like, I'm more my feelings about it are more important than social media's approval of the likes and shares and comments and stuff like that. Um, yeah, it. I just think it would help like a ton, for sure, doing it that way.
I agree.
Uh,
And like that, I agree 100%. Once like uh I think for me definitely once I stopped like kind of caring about what other people think of my art was when I noticed like both like an influx of like new people, new eyes to my work, but also like just a new appreciation for my own work as well. I started to enjoy like the funny sketch that I'll do in my sketchbook. I started to like get excited when I render like a shirt really well. Um, because once like I stopped caring, I felt like I was starting to grow also.
right. And that's kind of like one question I wanted to like ask too is like, was there like a breakthrough moment for you where like, because I mean, it's kind of rough like as someone who's trying to pursue art like on their own, you kind of need to have some sort of following to kind of do these things, like Patreon and things like that, people that support you. What was like that? Was there a breakthrough moment for you to like get to that point where you actually had like a following that could actually help you like actually do stuff?
I think my breakthrough was I think it happened more when like I was like growing. I think I had finally reached like 1,000 followers or something, and it was during that time where it kind of like all hit me where I was like, during this whole time I didn't realize that if I didn't care earlier, I still would have reached like the same goal. And since like, when I reached like 1,000 was when I started to finally like not care as much. I started to be more open about my characters and what I like and stuff and post drawings that I was proud of. Not because, I thought, oh, this is gonna do crazy numbers, but I thought, oh, I'm proud of this. I wanna share this growth with people, um but also I started to really enjoy like my own art as well rather than thinking it as like a will this be popular. I was thinking of am I happy with this. And when I started to do that was when I started to like feel more of a kind of like both an acceptance but also like a growth in my social media presence, because I think during this time I hadn't quite downloaded TikTok yet, so I didn't have like the quite the that that little boost that TikTok gives you, where
Mm-hmm.
like having a TikTok can really like boost your audience like in other platforms. I didn't quite have that yet. I had TikTok and I think I had like 2 videos, but I think they were just like funny videos of me, not so much of me actually making art.
Right.
So it was really, I think that was my breakthrough moment. And I remember because I was like just starting college and I was still in like that mindset of like I want to become a famous Instagram artist, blah blah blah. And but when I finally reached a landmark like that, and when I reached it, it was both fulfilling but also kind of like this feels different than I was expecting, because I was expecting it to be like, yes, I made it to the top. This is the height of luxury. But I also kind of, it was also humbling because it was almost like, I told myself like, subconsciously, I would have like gotten here anyways if I just didn't care as much. you know.
Yeah,
So that was definitely like my breakthrough moment.
that makes sense. Did you always have like your Patreon and stuff, or did you just like at a certain point you're like, okay, maybe I should start a Patreon now?
I started a Patreon when I don't remember when. I think I just started it so that way it was just there, and it had like, just kind of like the similar stuff that I had now. I had three tiers. I had a $15 tier, but I recently unlisted it because it was getting a little bit too like bit too much.
Yeah.
Um and I was like, I can provide the exact same stuff just for $5, and by doing that, it made it a bit more easier to like gain patrons because for whatever reason, when they see the $15, they think that, oh, this is too expensive. I'm like, you're still getting the same stuff, guys. Just they get more, like you're not being left out.
Right.
um, so I just kind of, like, merged the 5 and 15. We're like, there we go. There you go, guys. It's not
That's
as
smart.
daunting anymore. Okay. Um, and yeah, I started a Patreon. I was still like in like my early, like my freshman year of college, and I was still living in a dorm, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna make a Patreon, and then it didn't get any patrons. It kind of gathered dust because I forgot I made it. But but later down the road, when I had started to gain like more followers and stuff, and I was like, I think I should advertise this for now. It'll be fun. I think I had like a steady two patrons for about almost 3 months.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it was definitely a steady incline because during that time I wasn't super like concerned with it that much. It was mostly like a join if you want. I don't care. And this was like yeah, I started college in like late 2019. And so from about, yeah, like late 2019 into early 2020, my Patreon just kind of gathered dust. But when, COVID hit and stuff, and, I had to move back home and all that, I, that was kind of what kicked me into high gear to be like, maybe I should start this now that I have all this free time. Um, and I like refined it more. I would see like what fit, what didn't. I had like wrote down all the time like, oh, what would be good for like this tier and this tier, and I looked at like other people who had Patreons of like artists that I followed to see like how did they set it up,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want mine to be like a clock,
Right.
and it felt like I was kind of not so much doing it because I like it, but doing it because I have to like kind of perform in a way. So I wanted to still be able to you know make do its thing, do make me money, but I also want it to be as like stress free as possible because I'm not like we mentioned off podcast. um my Patreon was not meant to be like a business. It's more of like a independent owned artist. And so,
Like
over
I do what
time
I
it would,
want.
exactly. Um like some months I've gotten better at it. I make sure to at least like give them some content. That I make sure that they're eating good, but I over time I like kind of got the hang of it of like what's worthy of this and what's worthy of this while also it still makes sense. Like there's some patrons who like Patreons who like the first year it's like $5 you get a high res illustration once a month, and then like the second tier is like $50 a month, and I'm like, whoa, dude,
Jeez.
I got rent to pay.
Yeah.
Like even to me, I'm like, that's outrageous. I don't even know what I do for $50. Be like, I'll be your best friend for $50 a month. um, so yeah, it's definitely it's a major trial and error to figure out. But I'm definitely very, very lucky to have like a hefty amount of people who are willing to subscribe. And I always make sure to let them know it's like this isn't you know like a requirement. It's not like a exclusive fan club where if you don't join, you know I banish you to the shadow realm or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there to, if you want to support me other than just commissions, here's a way you can, and you get some exclusive stuff.
Right.
It's really cool.
That is awesome. Yeah, like, cause I've created my own Patreon, but like, I put too many tiers on it. Like now looking back, I'm just like, what was I doing? Like I don't know, and just like not really foreseeing like the actual reality of like doing Patreon. So like that's something I want to come back to as well. Um, is kind of rethinking that a little bit. But yeah, I think
Mm.
that's
And
really
some,
good how you have it set up because I've looked at it and I think it's great, very simple, and I think that's exactly it doesn't have to be anything more than what it is. Like I just like the simplicity of it.
mhm.
It's great.
And
Um,
I'm definitely happy with it as well. If there is something I'm going to be very like a bit prideful about, it will be that I'm happy that like my Patreon is more organized than it used to be. And I think for whatever reason, if people see like a bunch of different tiers, it's almost like having like to choose, like do I want to actually like do spend this much? But wait, what if I want to do that one? Can I change it? And
hmm
it becomes way more stressful than it needs to be. And I'm like, hey, it's just exclusive art content you can get. It's just that this one gets a bit more than this one, but it's not like you're missing out on anything. It's almost like I want to like be there to like hold their hand and just be like, hey, it's okay, like this isn't. I'm not having you decide on which one is your favorite child. This isn't.
yeah.
It's okay.
Well, can't you post videos
And
too? Because you could even like post a video and be like, "Hey guys, I'm here to explain the differences
they're
between the two tiers." I think that'd be fun because then it's like
yeah.
people click on it, they're
That,
like, "Oh my gosh, it's the actual artist talking to me. That's cool."
it's like, hello, thank you. I hope that wasn't too stressful for you. And if it was, I'm sorry. Here, bring it in for a hug. There we go. Welcome and thank you. And it's like, here's a cookie. Mwah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, and so since you're doing school, doing Patreon, and doing commissions, what does like a kind of typical day look like for you?
So, I wake up in my
No way,
uh
you wake up too?
tw-
That's crazy.
I know. It's
I
insane.
can't believe that.
I've had to set the one thing that for a lot of people who because I go to I do school online until the fall when I go back on ground. Um I set an alarm. I know. Whoa, so adult of me. Um but I set an alarm because I'll always feel like so bad if I sleep until like 11 for no reason. And then I'm like, I slept the day away. I'm so lazy. Ugh. Um, so I wake up at like 9:30 and I'll ease on up and I'll pet my cat and I would say good morning to my roommate, but she's away right now. So now it's just like good morning apartment. Good morning upstairs neighbors that for whatever reason wear 12-inch stilettos 24/7 and stomp and ice skate. And then I usually like to like do my breakfast, check the socials, who's been commenting, who's been, telling me that my character looks like something else, and then I cry a little bit. And usually around this time I will like go I like to go for a walk if it's not too hot, especially during this time.
Oh yeah.
Because Colorado is like, 2 inches away from the sun.
Yeah,
So,
I get that.
but but luckily it's been rainy, so as of right now it is 60 degrees outside. So I'm like, yes. That is one thing that Colorado has that I think is awesome. At night it does get chilly, which is amazing.
Oh yeah.
But I'll go for a walk and it really helps clear my head of any sort of like fog, I guess, because let's say if like the night prior like something was on my mind and it hasn't left, I'll go for a walk and it helps get the gears going thinking about, okay, what do I need to do today? I'm going to work on a commission, schoolwork, Patreon content, and then whichever the day brings me, I'll be prepared for that. And then I get home, eat lunch, and then usually from about 1:30, with of course I take breaks, from about 1:30 till about like 7:30, 6:30, I will be working on like commissions, um maybe even like personal work, Patreon, or like schoolwork. But if like the groundbreaking schoolwork I have to do on Wednesdays is a discussion post where I have to talk about something, then I'm breaking a sweat. But yeah, usually other than that, I like to kind of section off my days. So it'll be like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'll do commission work, and then Tuesday, Thursdays will be designated for like Patreon stuff. And if I have the energy, I will do a commission depending on how it is. If it's just someone who's like, "Hey, can you like draw me in Link's tunic, but it's just an icon," then I'll like knock that out before I
Hmm.
eat dinner. And then after that, I usually like to spend the rest of the day or like the night, maybe like catching up on maybe some like YouTube I want to watch or a show, or maybe like some manga that I'm reading, and just like doodle in my sketchbook, catch up on that.
Hmm.
Um and during that time I'll be like coming up with ideas for like my webcomic, and just like jotting those down and sharing those to like Patreon and stuff. And talking with my friends, and on the occasional day I'll call family, friends, whatever, because I think that's definitely important to me, is being, although like most of my friends are like abroad. I think it's important to at least still have that uh like anchor of the human connection.
Hmm.
Because now that it's just me and my cat Joseph, um I think most of like my other friends are like very dispersed across Denver and live their own lives and stuff, so it's like most of the time it's just me. But not like that's a horrible thing, like, oh no, I get to work from home, but the price I pay is I just get to talk to my friends remotely. Ugh, so hard, um but yeah, usually that's like a normal day for me. And then weekends I tend to kind of like keep it a bit more laid back. I won't harken too much work onto me. If there is a commission that I'm like, I really do want to get it done, so that way I can open up more slots, I'll just designate that to Saturday. But the weekends are usually for like any other school work, just personal work for me, and just like you know kind of like letting off steam for the next work week ahead.
That's crazy. That's really busy. Like and like I
Yeah.
come from like I'm busy as well. Like I do so much stuff. I'm up all night doing stuff. Um and for you, cuz like for me, I know like doing all this stuff like um like I know for me like it's kind of frustrating at times cuz like you don't feel like you have a lot of time for like social stuff all the time cuz you're always like focused and like nose to the ground doing art and stuff. But like at least for
Yeah.
me, I feel like fulfilled or like I feel like a sense of accomplishment in doing that. Like it doesn't like as with the challenges and sacrifices you make, there's still like that you still have that like sense of success, I guess. Is that how it is for you or
Hmm.
what's your gain from having such a busy uh life?
It does, well, for one, it does keep me busy, but I do like kind of find myself like uh I guess like finding getting a little bit down in the dumps. I'll see like some of my friends who live in like Texas or wherever, and they'll be like doing their thing, and I have like moments of being like, ugh, I'm still doing like the same thing, but when you work from home, yeah, it's gonna feel like a rinse and repeat,
Mhm.
but the other day I was like, talking with my mom, and she said, well, not every day is like the same. It's going to bring something new, and it'll just feel like, you're not doing much, but you are doing your job, and that's enough. And that's why I always try to like communicate with like my friends and stuff, whether it be on Discord, on whatever. I think it really does help make kind of the monotony of working from home a bit less strenuous, because I will have days of just like I don't feel like working at all. I want to like go hang out with my friends and just do nothing. But then there's like the reality of like, but they all live in like uh California or something, and it'll just like kind of like put me down in the dumps. But then I like kind of reflect and be like, you know what? At least I have a good hefty set of very close friends of mine. I get to do something that I never thought I'd be doing at this stage of my life. There are many great projects ahead of me, and it gets me excited for things that are yet to come. And that I'm not going to be doing online school forever, going back in the swing of actually like waking up, going to school, and like doing it, like feel like I'm doing something, is definitely gonna like make it much better, and be able to convene with other art students and stuff. Will make it like just much better. But I think everyone who's been affected by COVID can just attest to like, yeah, every day felt the same. And for some people, it still feels that way, but luckily, there is that light at the end of the tunnel, and that's what's kind of keeping me optimistic. And it makes me you not take for granted the job that I have right now.
Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah, I think like doing art is a challenge, but it's also so rewarding too. If you like, kind of, I don't know, you kind of have to suffer for a
Hmm.
bit until you kind of figure out like what works for you, and then you suffer through like, oh, is this worth it? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? It doesn't feel like I've made it, quote unquote. I just feel like I'm kind of going through day to day stuff. Cause like I'm definitely in that mode. Like that's, I relate to that. Like just feeling like I kind of do the same thing every day, but like it doesn't feel like much happens, you know. But in reality, like you're doing enough, and like I mean, you can only do so much in a day, and so you kind of have to be accepting of
Yeah.
like and realistic of like what can I actually do in a day, and sometimes you can do a lot, but then it's like, well, but tomorrow I can't expect this much out of me because like doing that 2 days in a row, that's gonna burn me out real fast. And so for me, I've been having to try to
Yeah.
find like that balance. Um, I've had a few weeks where they've gone really well, and I'm like, this is cool. And then the next week I overdo it and stay up to like 3 in the morning every single night, and I'm like, what am I doing? I have to go to work tomorrow. And then I'm sleepy at work, and I'm like, bro, what is wrong with me? I'm like obsessed. So yeah, the balance is like so hard to find because I can get, it's
Yeah.
so hard. It's so easy to get hyper fixated on stuff.
Exactly. And that's why something as simple as like making a work schedule, and divvying the work throughout the days, it'll make it like, although it might not seem like much, it does help out in feeling like I am doing something because I'm following this routine that is productive. And so you almost like kind of in a way kind of like gas yourself up, being like, you know what, I am doing something that's positive. I am doing something that is constructive. Whether it be today I'm going to record a line art tutorial for Patreon, and then tomorrow work on commissions. Um, that might not like sound like much to some people, but like to me, it keeps me in check, and makes me feel like, okay, I am doing something, and I would like to sort of rewind to what I had said a bit ago, how I would compare myself to like my animation, mutuals and peers, being like, oh, they're doing this, and it's whatever. I would think I would be comparing apples to oranges. Like, yeah, for an animation person, like their workload is completely different, and the result is also very different. But I'm an illustrator. Like, if I was put in that situation, I wouldn't be satisfied. I'd be stressed like all the time.
Yeah.
So it's nice to sort of like have that reality check, being like, no, no, I'm don't do that. I I'm very fortunate to, the only thing I have to, the only like kind of tribulation that I have to think about is, oh man, I hope I get to finish this commission by the end of today. Whether it's for an animation person, it's all like, I haven't even started on this scene that's due by tonight, you know? And it's a nice sort of reminder that, you know what, it might not seem fabulous right now, but to someone else, it's probably like something that they kill for.
Yeah.
Um and it definitely makes it, easier to deal with, and it makes me much more like accepting and appreciative.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. That's like the main reason I love talking to other artists is like being able to demystify stuff, because you kind of have like you construct an idea of what in your head of what it's like, but in reality it's like so much more closer to reality than you'd think, where it's like, you just have to, work through stuff, and sometimes it doesn't feel exactly what you want. You compare yourself to other people, even the people that you in your head like you think they've made it, still like struggle with the idea of like feeling like they've made it, or like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, even though to the outsider they're like, oh
Hmm.
my gosh, this is great, they're already doing the thing that I want to do. But yeah, I guess it's kind of hard because sometimes we kind of like put ourselves in a box where we're like, well, it's always like one day I'll get there, and even if you did technically make it, you're still making excuses to being like why you didn't make it yet. Like you're, oh well, I'm close, but I'm not there yet because I need X thing to happen, and I don't know, and that's something I've been trying to struggle with too. Is like, because I feel like I'm in a lot of ways like starting off like doing all my stuff, you know, and I feel like there's points in my life where I'm just like I need to be more patient because
Yeah.
I'm like in my head I have like this like I have like some preconceived number of like followers that I need to like make it big or seem like I'm like bigger than I really am kind of thing. But at the same time it's like it like you said before, like it doesn't require too many follower like people that are willing to support you to like really make it happen. So that like gives me
Exactly.
more hope to me because like in my head I'm always thinking big, but then I'm like, actually smaller works. Like that does work.
Hmm. Exactly. And um with like what you said about patience, sometimes like patience is definitely painful, but it always, there's always the reward at the end of it that makes it much more worth it. And that's like something I remind myself, where if I'm ever feeling like down in the dumps and it feels like I'm not doing enough, or it's like, when will be like my turn to live my life, um like this is just another bump in the road that is like a learning curve that will just like, kind of teach me that these things happen, but it's like it's not a fault. It is just life, and that's okay. It's very natural for this to happen. I'm sure a lot of like animators, illustrators, musicians, dancers, actors will experience, something like this where it feels like they haven't been doing enough when in reality they're doing plenty. But because they're comparing themselves to others, maybe someone who has more accolades, someone who's be getting more numbers, someone who's, maybe has like a job that you'd always wanted and they got it first or something. And you think to yourself, dang it, like, I wish that was me. It will be you, but just not right now because, like there's a, like, your time will come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think that's like for me like the biggest takeaway is just being okay with the small gains that you get. It doesn't have to be big.
Exactly.
It's just yeah. I mean, a lot of times we want things impatiently, but at the same time, like if we hold out, like it just means we're gonna be better off when we get to that goal that we might have. So you'll have more time to practice
Exactly.
before you get to the point where, because like you could blow up one day or whatever and be like, I'm not ready for this. I still don't feel like I'm ready, and so I think sometimes the slow growth is like probably better sometimes because it's like you can slowly prepare yourself
Hmm.
to be ready to do that kind of stuff, which is what I feel like I'm
I
doing.
agree.
Like I feel like at least like I know it's kind of like the back and forth where I'm like impatient, but then when I'm patient, I tell myself, no, this is good because like we're growing fast, but not like crazy like virality. Like let's just chill, because in the end, I will get used to this amount on my shoulders, like this kind of amount of stress of like, so many followers and so many things that you do, that I'll have time to keep improving. And then when I get to the point where it's like, if I get to reach my goal of like being boom crazy huge or something, like then I'll be like, all right, cool, I'm already ready for this. Like it's like weight training, you slowly add weights. So I feel like that's kind of what's
Exactly.
happening with most people is you slowly add another couple pounds every couple weeks or every month or something, and you eventually are able to lift a lot. You're a lot stronger, better
Hmm.
off artistically.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Bringing it back to my art is a muscle analogy.
Yeah, I love that. And this has probably been the longest podcast episode I've ever done in history. But I don't know, I just vibe so well with you. I really have been like really enjoying talking to you just about like the deep stuff, and I know a lot of people
Yeah.
that are listening are probably really enjoy that too. Cause like, I don't know, I feel like me sometimes like I do enjoy like the shorter, like, 45-minute podcast or 35-minute podcast, but like, man, sometimes you just want a solid hour and a half, especially if you're driving somewhere. You're like, okay, cool. I got half, I can listen to half of it on the way there, half on the way back. And like, I don't know. Sometimes that's nice, you know?
Exactly. I love nice long podcasts sometimes, It's just like it's nice background noise, and I hope this made for some good old background noise for the people at home,
Oh, yeah.
listening.
Yeah. If you guys drew something, and I would love to hear what you guys ended up drawing in the comment section on the YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
I
Heck
would
yeah.
love that. Because that's one of the main things I hear is people just love listening to the podcast while drawing. And I think that's stellar because I'm like, dude, that's even better. Like, I wasn't even planning on that. But like the fact that you're drawing while listening to an art podcast, insane. Congrats.
That's everything.
Round of
yeah,
applause
awesome.
to you for if you did anything during this podcast. Applause to you. Even sleeping. I mean, I'll take it.
Yeah. If you fell asleep, sweet dreams. If not, I hope that whatever accomplishment you did was great.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I'm proud of you, sports fan.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, that being said, is there any last amazing wise words from the Radically Maxton mind that you'd like to give other people? Or anything you'd like to say, I don't know.
Have fun with art. Don't, think you need to be perfect the first time, and stay hydrated.
That is a good tip. Have fun, stay hydrated. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved being able to pick your brain. It's been a long hiatus since I've done interviews, so I think maybe that's why it was so long. It was like I was just like, I don't want it to be over yet.
I know, right? Oh my gosh! But I'm glad
so
that
refreshing.
I was able to be the return, like the guest that you chose. Hold on a second. I'm glad that I was able to be the brain that was picked for the return.
Yes. That's awesome. Also, are there any because we talked about a few of these things, but is there anything you guys I'll link down below your links down below, guys, if you want to check them out. You can check out all the links to his Patreon and stuff like that. Is there any other places that you'd like to recommend them to check out your work and stuff?
I don't think so. I go by RadicallyMaxton pretty much everywhere on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. So yeah, just if there's a social media, I'm probably on there. Not all of them, but probably. I don't know.
Probably not MySpace, because I think MySpace is dead, right?
Yeah, definitely not. I've never once logged onto MySpace.
Me
I don't
either.
think Facebook either.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll catch you guys next week on the Digital Pen Pals podcast. Catch you next time. Peace.
Bye.